Good morning. It's August 9th, and it is 8:17 a.m. Eastern Time. This is Rich Position for Critical Point. This is an audio morning brief here of the stock market, but I want to start with the bonds first. Keep in mind, we think interest rates are going to be more important this decade than what we've seen in the last decade or so, and they're always important, but we think more so. And then, of course, we got inflation here that we haven't seen in decades. And so that's going to be important. Our best forecast is, yes, inflation will back off by next year, but it's still going to be a positive inflation. Things are still going to get more expensive in the store, just not as fast, okay? And for the moment, we think the stock market can deal with that, work with that, and it's okay. And the same thing for the economy, that the economy is going to even do better under this inflation than when we had low inflation, and that's specifically looking at GDP. Okay, interest rates. They're probably going to bounce interest rates here, maybe another couple of weeks or something like that. But ultimately, I think by looking out to September, October, interest rates will be back down again. Now, I do think some are fearful that low interest rates are a sign that someone doesn't think the economy is doing well at all and there's problems and complications. And that's making them edgy here where they might sell stocks immediately. But looking to me, it's more likely that the camp that's controlling the bond market right now is just thinking, really, this inflation is going to kind of blow over. It's not going to be that big a deal. And the Fed is not going to act all that fast. And they just feel like, keep interest rates down. It also helps the economy, too. So I don't think it's going to be that big a deal. And I think interest rates are probably just going to be in a range here, sideways range, into, say, October. And ultimately, I think they'll probably be a little bit lower at some point next year. But I do think later in the decade, we can also see higher interest rates than what we've seen this year. But I just don't think it's a non-stop bull market at interest rates. I don't really have anything to add to Bitcoin, dollar, crude oil. I think is rolling over. I did some work over the weekend on commodity indexes, and it looks like we're probably putting in long-term tops and back it off into next year. Now, these are minor long-term tops. I do think commodities and inflation could be higher later this decade, along with higher interest rates. I'm just saying we got some fluctuations here and some fairly important fluctuations suggesting a setback by next year, and we can start on that setback this year. I think these are actually positives for the economy. I think they're positives for the stock market. All right, so how about the stock market? Well, I think the overnight lower trade is just a little profit taking. I think it's going to create a little gap lower in the cash market. And when they buy it, they'll put it back above that gap. They'll keep on buying. It's kind of like a very miniature buy the dip moment. I think we'll probably put a level 4 bottom in today into the overnight market. I think probably by tomorrow the market will be up. We may learn it's actually going to be up by the end of today. Now, that fluctuation, oh, by the way, watch the 5-day average in the S&P 500 if you're interested in this kind of thing. That could be a support level where they stop selling and maybe even demand comes in and puts the market up. Now, as we zoom out, the larger level 3 trend, which is your bigger trend during the month, it's how we all do business, whether we know it or not. Okay, we have a wave of buying, a wave of selling, that's it. That trend could top tomorrow with a level 4 top. I think it's more likely Wednesday, and it doesn't have to top to early next week, which means we need more level 4 twists and turns day to day to try to find that top. Ultimately, I think it probably tops this week. It's probably going to bottom by early next week. I don't think there's going to be a lot of time for the decline. I don't think it's coming down all that much. I could be wrong, but my guess is even if it does come down quite a bit, it's just going to be back up. And the reason is, as we zoom out, we have the larger level 2 trader who's probably aggressively buying here. The level 1 trader who's been kind of coasting along for quite some time is finding still new money. I think it's coming more from the retail side, and they're putting that money into the market. I think August is still going to be an up month. What I can't tell you is, can it be a struggle? Can it be an explosive, very profitable month, or something in between? They're all on the table. What I can tell you is we hardly have any bearish scenarios for the month, okay? I think probability is high for this forecast. I think confidence is high here. I got to be convicted and give the bulls a chance. I think even if we get bearish news, it's not going to matter that much. The infrastructure bill may or may not help these fluctuations. Don't know yet. Don't particularly care, okay? It's important, yet it's kind of more like a long-term scenario. At any rate, I think ultimately In September is when you might get another opportunity, take a little profit, buy it back, hopefully at a little cheaper price. View it as maybe another buy the dip opportunity if you're trying to keep building a long-term bull market position. The more important buy probably will show up in December to January for level 1. So ultimately, I think even if they set back in September, they're going to put the market higher in October and November for a larger level 1 trend. And all of this fits into a long-term bull market into next year. Okay, so there's your twists and turns. There's our roadmap, our guide of how to work with this market. You could argue it's a little too late to continue to buy here, putting more and more money in. They might better wait till September. On the other hand, how high could this shoot up in August? It may be that the worst can happen is they bring it back to today's prices in September. So, you know, maybe it's okay to do some late buying, some methodical buying where you buy every month anyways, and you don't worry so much about the timing of these smaller twists and turns. But for the moment, like my money, I'm not putting any more in. I'm just setting back, hoping to rake in a profit this month. And then, yeah, I'll do a little bit of selling next month and then repurchase and see how I can work with it going into November. And then, of course, I have some positions I'm actually setting on for this decade. I'm just leaving them alone. I'm not even protecting it, believe it or not. It's just moving along with the trend here. All right, hopefully this makes some sense to you. Ultimately, I think the weakness today is nothing more than intraday to intra-week type fluctuation. I think we'll probably see the stock market higher in coming days, but we do have to consider there's going to be a level 3 top this week. It may delay early next, but I suspect towards the end of the week we might see a little more round of profit taking, but still minor overall. I think just not coming up with a reason with all this news and data and the patterns and these waves of buying and selling, just not coming up a reason to back off the idea that August can be an up month. It's just questionable how good or what characteristic, but on balance, it's still pointing towards a bias that it will be an up month in the stock market. And that's all I have today. Past results are not necessarily indicative of future results. Just following the trend here and give it a 2 thumbs up for the bulls. Thank you.